Welcome to the Sports Betting Podcast from pregame.com for Super Bowl week 2010. I'm your host, RJ Bell. I'm joined by Marco D'Angelo, 30 years in the business, Vegas runner, genuine professional bettor here in Vegas, star of the CNBC special on gambling. This is segment 1 of 6, and 5 of our 6 segments are going to be about the Super Bowl. Each segment, we're going to be talking about a specific element of the game. And then the 6th segment is a big college basketball game on Saturday. Okay, so segment 1 is we're going to look at the Indy Colts. Okay? The Indy Colts is a team. Now, Vegas runner, in general, though, let's get a quick update. What's the line doing on this game?
We've seen a drop in the numbers since the talk of Freeney not being 100%, not even being 100% sure if he's going to go. Since they're not releasing that, they says till later in the week. We've seen a little dip in the side of the Colts side, that is, and I'm seeing 4.5s across the board, some 5s, and as high as still 6 at Bodog, which is more of a square shot. But to get the 6, you got to lay 120 now, where before it was minus 110. So even there was a small adjustment.
And you think about it, if you're getting 6 at 120 and you get 5 at 110, you'd rather, or 5.5 at 110, you'd rather have the 5.5 at 110 because it's not worth buying for 10 cents. 6 is not worth 10 cents.
Yeah, exactly. The total stayed. It made that initial move at first, but now we're seeing it around the same 56.5. A few books have gone to 57. I've seen 57s up there.
And I've been surprised because you would think whatever effect Freeney would have on the side, it would have an equal effect on the over, because without the best defender.
Exactly.
All right, so Marco, as a handicapper, what jumps out at you about the Colts in this game?
Well, for me, and when I broke this game down, I did the pros and cons for each, and the biggest advantage that the Colts have in this game is the fact that they've been to a Super Bowl before. Peyton Manning's been here. That's a huge advantage.
Not just been there, won a Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's key, because a little of the pressure's off. You got a ring already.
And you were talking about you heard an odds maker on local radio here.
Yeah, and they believe that a team that's gone to the Super Bowl and has actually won a Super Bowl within the last 5 years, it's worth around a field goal.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
That's the thing for the Colts.
So big experience. Now, what's our sense of? And there's different ways to look at this. Clearly, Peyton Manning was there. Clearly, some of the Freeney was there.
Right.
Whatever he ends up doing in this game. But in general, in the NFL these days, isn't there a pretty big turnover?
With free agency, of course.
So the question is, something that happened a few years ago, how significant is that?
Well, you don't overhaul the whole team, but the fact that if you have a few players, especially if it's your key
big
players,
guy,
that your leaders, you always hear the phrase clubhouse leaders or locker room leaders. There's no question Peyton Manning is that for this team. The other thing that jumps out to me is if you really stop and look at it, the Indianapolis Colts have not lost a game all year in which they tried to win.
No, agreed, and that's going to be a very valid conversation. Real quick, though, and this might be an ignorant question, well, I guess by the definition of ignorance is not knowing something, so is Caldwell was with the team as a coach back 3 years ago, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
so he's got that experience being a coordinator.
That's another advantage, too, because from what I understand, the preparation side, dealing with the media, how the teams get so tired down there, and I went to the game last year, the Steeler game, and I can tell you by the time the game started, just for me, the emotion, by the time the game started, I was already tired, and then the game takes 3.5 hours, and the halftime is so long. I mean, think about the halftime's like double as long. There's all these things that only happen once a year, and I think being there is a big advantage.
And getting your team, I think, prepared for all the distractions they're going to face throughout the week. If it's your first time, you got to know how to schedule the meetings, how to schedule the press, how to deal with all of that. Where I think if you've been there already, you know the problems you might have, and now you could avoid those little pitfalls.
Being a Pittsburgh fan and that, Bill Cowher, the first year that when the Steelers went to the Super Bowl, he said one of the biggest distractions for him that week was tickets and travel plans. That you got to get everybody and their family and get everything coordinated because everybody wants tickets and that. It's just a whole nother process, preparing for the Super Bowl.
All right, so Colts have the edge with experience. What jumps out at you about the Colts side?
I think everybody keeps talking about the Peyton Manning factor. And as important as that is, and as key as the quarterback position is, I really think it's going to come down to how the Colts are able to rush the ball. Because they're 32nd in the league in rushing. And I think with the Saints being healthy in the secondary for pretty much the first time all year, that the Colts are going to have to be able to run the ball to have success. I think they're one of those teams that use the pass to open up the run.
Let's think about this. So what you were saying is, on one hand, we have a team that hasn't lost with its starters. On the other hand, we have the worst rushing team in the NFL.
Offensively and almost defensively.
But you're saying the key is their ability to run?
Yeah.
They haven't run all year, and they've won every game.
Well, no, they haven't had any success rushing. But
so how can that be the key of this game?
Well, I really think that when in a Super Bowl setting up against this team, against the Saints, you're not going to want this offense to keep coming out on the field.
So when you say a Super Bowl setting, what do you mean by that?
I think there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of nerves at first. And if you're just going to come out there and think you're going to throw the ball around easily, I think there's chances for interceptions. There's chances for 3 and outs. And if I was the Indianapolis Colts, the last thing I want to do is get in a shootout with this team. Not that they can't, but why give them that opportunity?
But doesn't Indy have the ability with the short passing to play ball control and to not necessarily run the ball effectively?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say they do, but I really think that the last thing they're going to want to do is let the Saints offense be on that field. I think the more you get them out of rhythm, the easier you're going to make this game be. But if you get them Saints coming in there, starting to get confident, airing it out, scoring a couple points, matching you point for point, that's not a position the Colts are going to want to be in.
When we get into some of our props in a later segment, I actually do think that the Indianapolis Colts running game is going to be a factor on Sunday, and I think it is going to be a major part of their game plan.
It has to,
because that is one of the Achilles heel when we get to New Orleans is the rush defense. One of the things that another big advantage that Indianapolis has in this game that the Saints don't is the Colts know that no matter what the score is, they have the ability to come back because they've done it this year. 2 times, huge deficits. They came back against New England, and they came back against Houston, and the Houston game was on the road. They were down 17-0 to Houston, you know, a team that played them tough at home and jumped out 17-0 at home. To come back, to know that you can come back from scores like that, that's confidence.
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, with that said, though, that's not a position they want to be in.
No,
you don't want to go to the half down 10 just because.
But what Marco's saying, no, true enough. What Marco's saying is, if the Saints get behind big, game might be over. If the Colts get behind big, the game's not over because they've done it this year.
Right.
All right. So let me wrap this up. Is to me the key. Listen, there's a lot of experts on ESPN and all that. They got a lot of great insight.
Yeah.
To me, the key is coming from a betting perspective and seeing things that other people aren't talking about. To me, what you're saying is something I haven't heard, and it's an interesting conversation. To recap, because of the inherent stress in the Super Bowl, passing is more difficult, even for a Peyton Manning, especially early.
Yeah, you even see the prop bet, first pass incomplete's always a minus.
Okay. Now, is that right?
Yeah, almost positive. What's it, minus 150 probably?
No, actually, I think you're wrong on it. It's the other way.
But I would agree with you in the following way, which is whatever the normal percentage is of completion from that quarterback, let's say they typically complete 60%,
right,
is that number will be a little bit lower than that, meaning because the first pass, there is a stress to it. But there's 2 sides of that too, not to get off on a tangent. Well, let's just say this, and then we'll talk about that in the next segment, is it's very interesting to say that because of all of the circumstances around this game, the Colts running game is going to be a more of a factor than it's been in the regular season.
Right.
I think that's saying something there. Okay, so next up, we're going to have segment 2 in which we're breaking down the Saints, and then we're going to be talking props and all kind of other stuff. Remember, you can get all of our videos at pregame.tv, or if you want to download and listen, just go to iTunes and search for pregame.com.